Salut, bonjour JustDisc community, and welcome back to episode 4 of learning how to play disc golf. Due to popular demand, we're bringing back this series to help you better understand how to work your way around a disc golf course. If you didn't know, in this series we analyze and break down one hole per episode and include shots from a diverse range of skill levels to help you improve. In today's episode, we'll be looking at hole 4 as we continue our journey through my hometown course. So without further ado, let's get into it. Alright, so let's jump into the hole 4 analysis, and this hole includes 2 tee pads and 2 baskets. This hole is known to be a very tricky one no matter which basket you choose, because it doesn't leave you with many options on how to attack them. The row of parallel trees is really the problem, and they're on both sides, and they just don't allow for much room for error, not to mention the branches hanging above, which prevents you from taking a higher route. If attacking the green basket off to the right, you'll notice there's almost no way through, until you get a little over halfway down the fairway where a gap opens up to access the basket. This is pretty much the only gap you can take to get there, and considering it's not that wide and there's even a tree in the middle before you get there, it's very hard to get through. So get ready for some tree hits. Now when attacking the orange basket, it's pretty much a dead straight shot, pretty much the opposite of the green, with the hanging basket ever so slightly off to the right. Now when talking about shot selection, the options are very limited. The green basket is almost certainly a forehand hyzer shot if throwing right hand backhand. However, if playing the long tee pad, you're going to need something that's going to ride straight for a while and then fade hard to the right to finish, which is very difficult to do. As for the orange basket, hyzer flipping is the name of the game. There's no way of throwing a disc flat and riding straight the entire way without doing a hyzer flip. So whether you like the backhand or the forehand hyzer flip, they both work great. It just depends on what you're most comfortable with. Alright, so let's get into the shot examples. We're going to start with the green basket, then the orange, starting with the short. So here's my buddy Jan throwing a river. He throws it a little bit too nose up, but it's a great disc for a turnover, especially if you got one a little bit more beaten in. Here he throws it more out and then it turns late, which is exactly what you're looking for, but the disc just doesn't hold the turn, so you need a disc with a little bit more speed, or you need to add a little bit more turn into the shot. So here he is trying it again. So to do the shot properly, you need to use the left side as much as possible. So there you go, he was trying to do exactly that, just released it a little too left. Here's a beautiful forced over turnover with the Rhino. It is an overstable disc, but he's beaten that thing in quite a bit, so it held the line. Here's an early gap. You usually don't see that too often. It usually hits a tree and doesn't enter. Dad trying the Mistair, a little bit of wind affecting, and also just a little bit more turn or power added to the disc. Wife using the Mistair makes that early gap to the right. Very risky to take that gap, and that was a little unintentional. Here she is approaching with the AVR3. Very nice. But here she is throwing the Mako 3. This is more of a placement shot. Keep it in play. You'll see that even though it was low, she threw it with enough power, so it got some turn, kind of stayed straight. Here's a little bit of an approach. One thing I want to tell my wife about her approaches is not to bring it so low and so far back, because it forces you to slow down as you're trying to release the disc. Alright, so here's that forehand hyzer, the ideal way to get to the basket. Kind of throwing a very lazy boss and a Firebird to get there, letting the disc fade do all the work. I swear I have one of the most overstable Firebirds that exists. It's a champion. It is a meat hook. It's insane. It is max weight as well. Here's just another angle. This is where you wouldn't want to go, kind of missing the late gap. And then here is where you would want to go. That's hitting the gap perfectly. Nice little skip around to get there. So here's some better Firebird shots, throwing it a little bit more flat, giving it time to push to get to that gap and then fade. You're gonna see the same thing here. That's a lot better. Okay, there you go, a tree hit. It seems to happen all the time. It's really kind of a guessing game. That one didn't get through either. All right, moving on to the long tee for the green basket. Here's my buddy Max with the Destroyer. Good choice. Got a little armsy with it, didn't shift his weight forward, and was a little bit nose up. Here's a nice dart approach, very workable disc, just turned it over a little too much. All right, now for my buddy Phil, loves to throw MVP discs. A little bit armsy with that one. Tries to do a flex shot, which is possible, but one of the more difficult shot types to perform. Approaches very aggressively, but puts it high so it hits something, and what a nice putt, almost gets it in. And here's my dad with his Mistair go-to distance driver. He knows he can't get there, but if he places it somewhere up there in the middle, he's usually left with that open gap. Here he is trying it again. A little bit better this one, right? A little bit more nose down, got some turn. full flight right to that gap, as you can see here. Able to approach with this skeeter, but turns it over a little too much. It's a little bit of a understable disc. It's finicky. All right, so here I am using the Wraith doing the forehand hyzer route. If you're doing the forehand hyzer, you really need to use all of the fairway, come close to hitting the tree. It's not the ideal shot. Here you're gonna see another attempt at the forehand, a little bit hyzered off. Lucky to get through some kind of gap, which sometimes happens. Don't have good use of my body behind this bush, so I really have to spin it to get there. Here's a better shot of what you should be doing. Hyzer flip, flips up to flat, but you can see it's kind of still moving, fading to the right. Not enough power, not committing enough. Here's a bird forehand. Kind of just toss it at that bush because it acts as a great backstop for catching the disc. Here's a better way to see it actually. This one is not as good, a little bit lower, kind of skipping all the way there. Hits one of the guardian trees, of course. But here's a better look at what you should be doing. So releasing hyzer, flips up, and then starts to gently fade through that gap. That one was a touch nose up. If I want it to fly a little bit straighter, it would have to be a little flatter. That one's nice and flat. That one makes it through, or at least I thought it made it through. Must have hit a tree. Once again, the issue with this hole, little forehand berg approach where I feel like I can run it. Another reason why I use the berg. Moving on to the orange basket, short tee. Got my buddy Jan throwing his river, little bit nose up. He really likes to throw it flat with some speed, get some turn, and just hold that turn the entire way. Here's my wife Lindsay with the Leopard 3, really trying to use that body to get that turn. Here's a beautiful Mystère shot, a little bit too much just for her now, but you can see, oh, she throws it with good power, even was beginning to turn, but just released a little left. Really like this approach with the AVR 3, using that body language, a little bit more turn would have kind of held it towards the basket. And here's my mom with her Road Runner. She uses the Mamba now, but she tends to have a problem of jumping right before throwing, and she jumps because she's trying to get a little bit more power. She has gotten rid of it at times, but every so often it kind of sneaks back. Here's my dad with the Mystère going for the orange. This Mystère's a heavier one for him, and you can see it just wants to fade out early. This is an easier one for him to kind of work. And he gets a really good throw, hits a tree, gets a little frustrated. Approaching with this skeeter, throws it a little nose up, which allows more fade, more predictability. Here we go with the Sidewinder. This is some old footage right here. A little bit self-conscious about my backhands, a little bit of a rounder with some of these shots, even a little bit of a step forward there. Foot fault. Here we go with the Mako 3. Hyzer flipping that. It was actually a pretty good shot. I was impressed with that. Leopard 3, little nose up. That's why it's just gonna, want to fade out to the left. Here's what I do now. I take the Leopard 3, kind of throw it at, medium to high speed, let it flip up, fly straight, and then fade back to the target. So in this shot here, you see a nice birdie. Okay, here's another look at it. You can see I'm not really putting a ton of speed into it. It's almost too much disc, but the Leopard 3 can be finicky if you want to get it to flip up. Here's the best one, I would say. Adds a little turn, pretty much under the basket. Got a little tree trouble, but able to get that birdie. Very nice. Now, we don't play a lot of longs orange. This is an older footage shot. I was pretty happy with that, with the Sidewinder. Don't really approach with the AVR 3 anymore, but a really good disc. Threw it nose up so it didn't go too far past the basket. Oh, here we go. Nice Sidewinder with a bit of turn, but just not enough power to sustain and make it all the way to the basket. All right, let's get into the recovery shots. We're starting off with Susan, one of the early JustDisc supporters. This is when she was fairly new to the game. Since then, she's won some tournaments, approaching with the Berg, learning the forehand there. Very nice. Little AVR approach there for myself. I think I hit a tree and was a little frustrated, so I decided to run it with the Mako 3. Do not recommend it. Very glidey disc, hard to judge. They're just crashing a Firebird into the bush there because I know it'll catch it. Little bit of a funny jump putt, but I got it. Couldn't believe it. Was pretty happy. Nice birdie. Here I am approaching with the Cayman. It's a very overstable mid-range, one of my most favorite discs. Can really trust it to get to the basket. A little jump putt with the AVR, hits off the top end, and here I'm asking, should I go for it? Because there's a tree blocking, and I end up smashing it in there. Now let's look at some fails. Everybody likes to see these. We all fail, we all hit trees, we all throw bad shots. So here's my buddy Jan, really late release. Doesn't go too well trying to approach with his Rhino. Now it was an early release, so ends up getting a bogey there. Here he is giving it another go. I think that's his freedom, really trying to work the disc over with his body. Here's my mom showing you that jump. When you jump and you don't pivot into that front leg, you are losing all of your power, and I'm hoping this video helps her improve that. Here's my buddy Max, just kind of turning it over too much with the forehand, kind of using the wrist more than he should. Kind of getting lucky there with his T-bird. Here's a destroyer, does the exact same shot, and it's almost a very similar result. Here's my wife with the Mystère, just early and low. Now late with the Mako 3. Here's her Mystère. Pretty good, just again, just a little nose up and a little bit too much turn. And just to finish it off with a nice basket hit for her. That was a tough hole that day. Here I am hitting the tree branch with a jump putt. Another putt here at the basket. Oh, and destroyer onto the left tree. Now the wraith, too high, too turn, not good. Here I am with the leopard 3, just not enough power to kind of flip it up to flat. Here we go with the wraith once again. This is the last one. Beautiful flight, and of course hits that tree dead on. Thanks for watching JustDisc. We truly hope that you learned something, and if you like this series, you know exactly what to do. We'll see you in the next one. Merci beaucoup et à bientôt.